The forest stood tall and dark. A group of friends, Jake, Emily, Ben, and Chloe, ventured into the woods. They were excited. They planned to film a spooky video series for their online channel.
This will be our best content yet,
Jake exclaimed, holding up his camera. The friends laughed. They were sure it would be a fun adventure. Little did they know, something sinister lurked within the shadows of Pinewood Forest. The woods held secrets. Dark secrets.
Okay, let's get some intro shots,
said Emily, grabbing her microphone. The friends gathered around a towering pine tree, its branches twisted and turned like gnarled fingers reaching for the sky. The camera started rolling.
Hey everyone, it's Jake, Emily, Ben and Chloe coming to you live. Well, not exactly live, from Pinewood Forest,
Jake announced, trying to sound brave despite the eerie silence of the woods. The sun was already beginning to set, casting long shadows across their path. The friends continued deeper into the forest. The air grew heavy. The sunlight struggled to reach the forest floor. The trees seemed to press in on them.
It's getting cold,
she whispered, pulling her jacket tighter.
It's just the wind,
Ben reassured her, though even he felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. The forest was alive with unseen eyes. They reached a clearing. A circle of ancient-looking stones stood in the center, shrouded in an unnatural mist.
Wow, this is creepy,
Jake murmured, pointing his camera at the stones. As he zoomed in, a strange shape seemed to move in the viewfinder. Jake blinked, but the shape was gone.
Must be a trick of the light,
he mumbled, but a shiver ran down his spine. The woods were full of whispers and shadows. They were not alone. The friends decided to set up camp for the night. As darkness enveloped the forest, the temperature plummeted. The wind howled through the trees, sounding like the cries of lost souls.
Did you hear that?
Emily whispered, clutching Jake's arm.
Hear what?
Ben asked, shining his flashlight into the darkness. The beam danced across the trees, revealing nothing but shadows. But Emily could have sworn she heard a twig snap nearby. And was that a faint whisper she heard? Or just the wind? Suddenly, Jake's camera fell over with a loud thump. He bent to pick it up, but it was no longer there.
Where did it go? This isn't funny, guys,
Chloe gasped. She pointed to a nearby tree. There, hanging from a low branch, was the camera. But how did it get there? A cold dread washed over them. Something was toying with them. Panic began to set in. The friends searched for the camera, their voices echoing through the silent woods. But it was gone, vanished without a trace.
This isn't funny anymore,
Chloe cried, her voice shaking.
We need to stick together,
Jake said, his voice tight with worry. He shone his flashlight around the clearing, but something was wrong. Ben was gone.
Ben, where are you?
Emily called out, her voice trembling. The only response was the rustling of leaves in the wind.
He was just here a minute ago,
Jake said, his face pale. Fear coiled in their stomachs. The forest had taken Ben. The realization hit them like a physical blow. They were trapped in a nightmare, and something dark and evil was hunting them. The remaining friends, their faces illuminated by the cold glare of their flashlights, huddled closer together. They were lost and alone, their laughter from earlier a distant memory. The forest had transformed from an exciting adventure into a terrifying trap.
We have to get out of here,
Jake said, his voice barely a whisper. Emily nodded, her eyes wide with fear. They couldn't see it, but they could feel it. A presence, cold and menacing, lurking just beyond the reach of their lights. The air crackled with unseen energy.
We need to keep moving.
They stumbled through the undergrowth, desperate to escape the unseen terror that stalked them. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig sent shivers down their spines. The forest held its breath, watching, waiting. The silence was broken by a blood-curdling scream. It was Chloe. She stood frozen, her eyes fixed on something behind Jake and Emily.
Behind you!
She screamed, her voice raw with terror. Jake and Emily spun around, their hearts pounding in their chests. But there was nothing there.
What is it, Chloe? What did you see?
Chloe just pointed a shaky finger.
It was there, watching us.
Jake pulled out his phone, his hand shaking.
We need to call for help, he said, but the screen only blinked back at him. No service.
Despair washed over them. They were trapped, alone and hunted in the heart of the dark and unforgiving forest. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper. The presence was closing in. A twig snapped, then another. Something was moving towards them, just beyond the reach of their lights. They were surrounded. The whispers started as a low murmur, barely audible above the rustling leaves. But they grew louder, closer, swirling around them like a vortex of fear. The friends huddled together, their backs against a towering oak, their flashlights casting dancing shadows that only heightened their terror.
Who's there?
But the only answer was the rustling of leaves and the growing chorus of whispers. The whispers seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once.
It's no use, she whispered, her voice shaking with terror. They can't hear us.
She was right. They were lost in a world where sound was distorted, where shadows moved with a life of their own. The whispers grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of voices, each one filled with an unspeakable dread. The friends covered their ears, but the sound pierced through their defenses, echoing in their skulls. Suddenly, through the darkness and the din of whispers, a light appeared. A single, flickering light bobbing in the distance.
Look, a light.
Hope, fragile and flickering like the distant light, blossomed in their hearts. Could it be a park ranger? Another hiker? Someone, anyone, who could lead them out of this nightmare? They stumbled towards the light, their fear momentarily forgotten in their desperate hope for rescue. As they drew closer, the light grew brighter, illuminating the path ahead. The whispers faded, replaced by the sound of their own ragged breathing and the pounding of their hearts. They emerged into a small clearing, the light source now clearly visible. But it wasn't a flashlight or a lantern. It was a bonfire, and standing beside it, silhouetted against the flames, was a figure. A tall, shadowy figure that sent a fresh wave of terror through their veins. The figure turned, and the firelight illuminated its face. It was Ben. He was smiling, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was cold, cruel, and utterly devoid of warmth.
Ben, what's going on? Where are we?
Ben's smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed to gleam unnaturally in the firelight.
You're home, he said, his voice low and distorted, like it belonged to something other than human.
He gestured towards the darkness beyond the firelight.
They've been waiting for you, he said, his voice barely a whisper.
And from the shadows the whispers returned, louder than ever, closing in on the terrified friends. They were trapped, not by the trees and the darkness, but by something far more sinister, something that had been waiting for them all along, something that had taken Ben and twisted him into something monstrous. As the whispers surrounded them, Jake, Emily, and Chloe realized with chilling certainty that they were not going to escape the woods. They were going to become part of them, forever,